Hello, everyone. Welcome to the APU Symposium Conference, where we will be discussing current science knowledge in support of popular science writing. My name is Jason Bird, and I will be your host for this session. In terms of popular science writing, Rachel Carson is one of the most iconic. Her book Silent Spring ignited the environmental movement in the United States, and she is considered a trailblazer for change in environmental policy. The book was originally published on September 27, 1962, and the title comes from an old poem that invokes a ruined environment in which no birds sing. Silent Spring sold more than 100,000 copies in the first week and was on the bestseller list by Christmas in 1962. By now, it has sold more than 2 million copies and has been translated into more than 20 languages. Some key themes brought to light by Silent Spring are mainly the focus on the documentation of indiscriminate use of pesticides and their adverse effects on the environment, human impact on nature, and the building of a foundation for other ecological interconnections. Also, everything is connected. In nature, nothing exists alone. Carson was born in 1907 and grew up in Springdale, Pennsylvania. She was a lover of nature, a marine biologist, a scientist, ecologist, and a successful writer, publishing 6 books in her lifetime. She's a graduate from Johns Hopkins University with a master's in zoology. She worked for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service as an editor and publisher for roughly 15 years. She's a simple, educational, and descriptive woman. Carson was considered an expert in her field. However, the true implications of her work didn't take root until after her tragic death from breast cancer in 1964. Carson hoped to change the way humans viewed our natural world and challenged government agencies and local lawmakers on the use of synthetic pesticides. To give you an idea of what was happening in the world at the time when Silent Spring was published, World War II was finally in the past. The 60s and 70s were in full swing. The Soviet Union just launched Sputnik into space, which was the first artificial Earth satellite. And John F. Kennedy was president of the United States. The most iconic form of synthetic chemical was DDT. Carson speaks a lot about DDT in her book, and this image demonstrates the use of DDT in 1946 for the prevention of polio in the streets of San Antonio. DDT was first synthesized in 1874, but in 1939, its use as an insecticide was discovered and became the first of a modern synthetic insecticide. DDT and other synthetic chemicals were considered by Carson to be elixirs of death, and that's actually one of the titles of a chapter in her book. And the use of these hydrocarbon pesticides like DDT were having detrimental effects on human life and human health, and also organisms all over the country. And our lack of knowledge was definitely imminent. DDT application rates were extremely toxic to land organisms and aquatic life, and high levels of applications resulted in not just the target of mosquitoes, but many fish and amphibians too, and adverse effects on non-target species as well. DDT was a non-selective chemical, and our lack of knowledge resulted in negative effects on the environment, overall health of the public. The list goes on, but DDT is an insoluble in water chemical, but it's highly soluble in fats and oils and accumulates in the fatty tissues of organisms. So essentially, it does not break down very easy, and it was magnified throughout the food chain. The influence of Silent Spring in environmental science is undoubted. This led to the formulation of the EPA in 1972, which was influenced by President Kennedy after reading her book, which led to the reintroduction of the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, and the outright ban of DDT with the Federal Environmental Pesticide Control Act. Also, Carson testified in Congress on a Senate committee on the use of pesticides in 1963, which actually had quite an influence on environmental policy moving forward. In conclusion, Current science is in support of Carson's claims of the negative effect of synthetic chemicals. However, Carson is not completely against chemical use, but rather the misuse and overuse of them. With early detection and advancement in technology, we have the tools and resources necessary to help with the prevention of spills, misuse of pesticides, and knowledge to help prevent non-regulated chemicals from entering our environment. Prevention is the number one contributor to a healthier ecosystem, and ecotoxicological assessments are, and new tools will aid in early prevention of these non-regulated chemicals. Prevention, like I said earlier, is the number one contributor to a healthier ecosystem, and it must be at the top of our priority list. Pesticide use brings benefits, however, the risks have not really been fully understood until now, and Carson brought these to light. I appreciate the opportunity to present to you all today, and I encourage all of you to read Silent Spring if you haven't already, as it has been truly eye-opening in the realm of pesticide use and how far we have come. Thank you. Here are some literary references as well as image references.